Breaking tonight, a chaotic scene in Los Angeles as crowds clash with immigration enforcement agents.
They detain individuals without any questioning. They just arrested them.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Alex Savage. Federal authorities say at least 45 people were detained today during immigration raids across Los Angeles. And tonight we are seeing protests erupting in the city in response to those ICE operations. Crowds began gathering after images like these from the Citizen app began circulating online. Federal agents detained immigrants at 7 different locations, including 2 Home Depot stores and a donut shop. Fox 11's Gina Silva shows us how the actions led to clashes between protesters and law enforcement.
It sounded like a war zone in downtown LA, with federal agents hurling flashbangs into the air, trying to scatter protesters during an ICE raid.
They are saying they're doing this because they're going after criminals. They're not going after criminals, they're going after workers.
Multiple ICE raids were carried across Los Angeles. In the fashion district in downtown LA, several workers were detained at Ambience clothing store on Town Avenue. Rosa Ramirez says one of them was her friend.
Sad, because all of us, we have family, and it's really sad. I don't have words. He was only my friend, and I feel bad for him.
When ICE agents arrived in white vans, protesters tried to block them from entering the parking lot. They were quickly pushed aside, and during the scuffle, several people were reportedly injured, including SEIU President David Huerta. Rosa says they were all forcibly removed.
They grabbed anyone that was there. So they grabbed me. First, they grabbed my daughter and pushed her on the fence. I tried to get her, and then the FBI got me from the throat.
A spokesperson for U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley says the raids at Ambience locations were conducted to serve search warrants based on probable cause that the employer was using fictitious documents for some of its workers. The FBI, the ATF, and ICE agents conducted Friday's raids. The LAPD was present, but Chief Jim McDonnell issued a statement that says in part, while the LAPD will continue to have a visible presence in all our communities to ensure public safety, we will not assist or participate in any form of mass deportations.
I think it's horrible, honestly. I think there needs to be some change because there's no way that this should be all right, that they could just come in and take them whenever they want.
As the white ICE vans tried to leave the area, protesters blocked their path. One person fell and appeared to be struck. The van kept on going.
People should not be kidnapped. Right now we're seeing a lot of what used to be called fascism. And right now they are kidnapping folks. There's no due process.
And that was Fox 11's Gina Silva reporting tonight. SEIU California says its president, David Huerta, was detained during today's immigration enforcement activity. The union is made up of 750,000 members across California, and the union is calling for his immediate release. ICE has declined to discuss any details of its operations today in Los Angeles. California Senator Alex Padilla weighing in. He issued a statement today criticizing this immigration enforcement action and taking aim at the Trump administration, saying in part, quote, the ICE raids across Los Angeles today are a continuation of a disturbing pattern of extreme and cruel immigration enforcement operations across the country. These indiscriminate raids prove once again that the Trump administration cares about nothing but instilling harm and fear in our communities to drive immigrants into the shadows. Senator Padilla went on to say his office will be demanding accountability. Today, demonstrators took to the streets in San Jose, protesting actions by ICE agents this week, including the arrests of some undocumented migrants. KTVU's Jesse Gary has the details tonight on the surprising outcome at today's rally.
Shut down ICE! Anti-ICE chants echoing through the cramped hallways of an office building in the 300 block of Blossom Hill Road. Dozens of community organizers and neighbors determined to close this South San Jose Immigration and Customs Enforcement Office.
There's 146 seniors that live here. We don't want them here. They just got here a couple of months ago.
Once the group reached its destination, to its surprise, the office was already closed.
We're still making a point to other neighboring offices that we don't want them to be present in the building at all.
This loud vocal pushback comes as ICE agents have, during the past week, detained several people for deportation. A statement from the agency says, in part, ICE has identified individuals with outstanding final orders of removal who may be removed from the United States. Many families came as a group illegally to the United States. Many of these families have lost their case after being afforded due process. Accordingly, many are detained pending removal. The removal of individuals and families is stoking a growing fear in the South Bay and beyond, according to advocates and community activists.
These raids are not about justice or security. They are about terrorizing our communities.
We know that the Trump administration set out with the idea that immigrants in our community are criminals.
Are we ready to fight for immigrants?
Yeah. San Jose District 5 Council member Peter Ortiz on Friday introducing a memo calling for an additional $1 million in emergency funding be allocated to protect immigrant and undocumented communities.
And it's the city's job to make sure that the people of the city of San Jose are safe, regardless of their citizenship.
We are here today to build power, not panic in the community.
It's a patchwork of community groups forged by determination to protect their own and push out an unwanted tenant from this building and from the larger Bay Area.
Because we will defend our immigrant brothers and sisters, our immigrant neighbors.
Councilman Ortiz's office says the extra $1 million in funding has to be approved by a vote of the city council. The mayor had already requested $500,000 in his budget message. The councilman wants another $1 million. A simple majority could get it done. That vote could come June the 10th. In South San Jose, Jesse Gary, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
And we have an update tonight on the Salvadoran man who was mistakenly deported. Kilmar Abrego Garcia is now back in the U.S. tonight and facing criminal charges. He was indicted by a federal court in Tennessee back on May 21st on charges of allegedly transporting undocumented migrants within the U.S. He was deported accidentally over 2 months ago by the Trump administration from Maryland and sent back to his native country, El Salvador. Attorney General Pam Bondi spoke about the case earlier today.
He will be prosecuted in our country, sentenced in our country if convicted, and then returned after completion of his sentence.
Garcia's family filed a lawsuit in March over his deportation, with a federal judge ordering the Trump administration to facilitate his return. Investigators believe the man accused of murdering his 3 daughters in Washington may be on his way to Canada. They say Travis Decker's recent Google searches included "How does a person move to Canada?" and "jobs in Canada." Fox 13's Shiro Matsuzawa spoke with people in central Washington, where the manhunt for Decker has intensified.
This afternoon, the Chelan County Sheriff's Office says they have received more than 500 tips regarding where Decker might be. And over the course of the day, we've actually seen helicopters flying up above since about 8 o'clock this morning, no doubt searching for Decker. Circling up above.
Helicopters going back and forth.
This is what those camped out at the Icicle River RV Resort have been seeing in the air and on the ground.
There's been a police presence in last night. Late at night, there was a searchlight down on the water, so I know the police were searching here.
They're searching for 32-year-old Travis Decker after his daughters Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia failed to come home after a planned visitation with him. Their bodies were later found near his abandoned pickup truck. Investigators now believe he could be attempting to cross state or even international borders.
I personally don't think he'd be coming out in public.
Fox 13 obtained this criminal complaint against Decker, charging him with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. In it, federal investigators say Decker used his Google account on May 26th, just 4 days before his visitation with his daughters, to search for information about relocating to Canada and visited official Canadian job sites. The documents state the area where the crimes happened are near the Pacific Coast Trail and lead into Canada. And given Decker's skills to survive the woods for days, even weeks, investigators say he could be actively attempting to not get caught. For Lisa Malone Gooden, she hopes authorities find Decker soon.
This is horrendous, nothing like most people would ever hear about or experience, but you know, my thoughts just go to the family, to the mother especially.
And that was Fox 13's Shira Matsuzawa reporting tonight. And we are learning more about Travis Decker. Fox 13 spoke with a former Army squad member who was Decker's roommate while they were stationed in Italy. That person wanted to remain anonymous, but shared some insight on the type of person Decker was during his time in Europe. The roommate said Decker was kicked out of Ranger Regiment for failing Ranger school. He was then transferred to the Army platoon. The roommate described Decker as a fit but quiet guy, sort of an outcast, a hard worker, and a bit of a narcissist. Investigators are asking you to keep an eye out for Travis Decker. They say he has extensive military and survival training and should be considered dangerous. Investigators do not know whether the 32-year-old is armed. He's about 5 feet 8 inches tall with black hair and brown eyes. He has several tattoos on his arms and body. And if you do spot Decker, do not approach him. Authorities say immediately call 911. The man accused of a terror attack in Boulder, Colorado is now facing a federal hate crime charge that by itself could carry a life sentence. Mohammed Salman appeared in federal court today, one day after he was charged with 118 state counts, including attempted murder. Salman is accused of throwing Molotov cocktails at a group that was gathered and calling for the release of Israeli hostages in Gaza. Prosecutors say Sunday's attack injured at least 15 people and a dog.
The charges reflect the evidence that we have regarding this horrific attack that took place and the seriousness of it. If the defendant's convicted and those counts run or those sentences run consecutive, that would be 48 years in state prison for each of the 14 victims, which comes to 672 years.
The suspect is being held at the Boulder County Jail on a $10 million bond, and he's due back in state court for a preliminary hearing on July 15th. Coming up tonight here on West Coast Wrap, a drug bust for the record books right here in the West. Tonight, how surveillance played a key role in making these arrests.
As we're taking a look at the Seattle area, isn't that glorious? And to the south, we'll talk about near and record high temperatures and what they can expect. And that's still coming up with your West Coast Wrap forecast.
Also coming up tonight, a high school athlete says she's crushed in the aftermath of a victory celebration. Why she thinks it's unfair that she's being stripped of her state title. A major drug bust here in the West has set a record. As Fox's William Lajeunesse reports tonight, a new federal task force made that bust in Southern California.
Cocaine seized in Laredo, meth intercepted in California, narcotics and cash captured on the Rio Grande.
More seizures are coming, more arrests are coming. I guarantee you that.
San Diego Monday, 4 tons of meth crossed the border in a semi. Smugglers unload 61 bundles into 2 vans and a pickup at a nearby warehouse, unaware that they're under surveillance by a new federal task force. Police arrest 3 men, 2 from Mexico and a felon from El Salvador.
To the leaders of the Sinaloa cartel, you are no longer the hunters. You are the hunted.
Fentanyl seizures along the border are down to their lowest point in 3 years, 30% this year alone, according to the CBP. Why? With fewer migrants, agents have returned to highway checkpoints where dogs and profiling catch what is missed at ports of entry. And National Guard units elsewhere act as a deterrent.
Because we see the asylum numbers that have gone down significantly in the last year, that means that these CBP officials can focus on their core responsibility, which is that human trafficking, drug trafficking.
And Mexico is doing more. Today, President Claudia Sheinbaum took credit for the drop in fentanyl smuggling, while others say President Trump's executive order designating cartels as terrorist groups makes some narcos think twice.
This isn't just a legal breakthrough. It's a necessary evolution on how we confront transnational criminal organizations.
Suspects in the San Diego case face a minimum of 10 years for intent to distribute 4 tons or $5.5 million of methamphetamine. In Los Angeles, William Lajeunesse, Fox News.
In Arizona, one person is recovering tonight after a small plane crashed into a field near the Deer Valley Airport in Phoenix. 2 people were on board, one person taken to the hospital with minor injuries. Authorities say soon after takeoff, that plane lost power for some reason. After realizing the plane wasn't going to make it back to the runway, the pilot decided to land in that field. That's when the plane then hit a ditch and flipped over. There was more drama today in Phoenix in the trial of Lori Vallow Daybell. The so-called doomsday mom is representing herself as she faces charges of conspiring to kill her former nephew-in-law. Daybell said she wanted to tell the jurors about her good character. The judge warned her that would open the door for the prosecution to cite examples of her bad character, including her past convictions for the murders of her 2 children and her husband. After a confrontation, the judge ordered her to be removed from the courtroom for a break. Let's talk about our weather here in the West, and people in New Mexico are hoping that the worst of this week's severe weather is behind them. Check out this scene. Video circulating online shows a funnel cloud crossing into the town of Causey yesterday. This is near New Mexico's border with Texas. That storm system also dumped ping-pong-sized hail in the area. Let's bring in KTVU meteorologist Roberta Gonzalez, who is tracking the conditions across the West for this weekend. An incredible sight there.
Yes, that is incredible. It is incredible, definitely. And the National Weather Service had issued a tornado warning for that particular area just minutes before that actually did touch down. That it was initially a funnel cloud, then it was deemed a tornado once it did touch down, knocked down some power lines. There were no injuries. But then as that system began to progress in a easterly fashion, we still are picking up some reports of hail at this time crossing the New Mexico line into Texas. We now have, how about this? In Sundown, Texas, we have tennis ball size hail. Then we go up to Colorado and we're picking up pea to penny size hail, and it's starting to make some accumulation. We go now back to Arizona where all is quiet. State Farm Arena hosting the RV show until Sunday, 104 degrees. Good idea to go inside and take a look at some of those RVs. Isn't this pretty? I'm going to get out of the way. This is Santa Monica, 17 miles from LAX, where it was 73 degrees today. Just glorious. And the clouds began to clear. They too have been experiencing June gloom. Emeryville, just to the east of the city of San Francisco on the other side of the Bay Bridge, 65 degrees, average high 66, so pretty spot on. And again, let me get out of the way so you can take a look at the port of Seattle, where we have an easterly moderate wind, 79 degrees there today, up from the average high typically of 76. Other notable numbers, right now it is still in the high 80s, 93 degrees, a forecast high today in Sacramento, and bam, that's what they saw, 76 in San Jose. How about 101 in Redding today? And in Portland, they saw temperatures in the 80s, and it's going to be even hotter. It's now 80 degrees there, forecasting 96 degrees by Monday. How about 94 on Sunday? Near or record high temperatures within the Pacific Northwest over the weekend through Monday. 93 degrees right now in Las Vegas. So we have this area of low pressure that's just been sitting off the coast of Southern California, enhancing the marine layer, which will build to about 2,000 feet tonight, overnight around the California coastline, and that will cause some condensation in the form of drizzle for just about all coastline cities tonight overnight, but then it will clear away, make way for some sunshine. The forecast for the next 3 days, we do have that near record heat in throughout the Pacific Northwest. San Francisco slightly below average on Sunday and Monday with that deepening marine layer. Typical weather for this time of the year in throughout Los Angeles. And for the first full weekend of June, boy, Phoenix going up to 108 by Monday, 111 by Tuesday. Alex, I think you know that heat.
I do know the story there in Arizona. Roberta, thank you. Tonight, President Trump and Elon Musk appear to have stepped back, at least somewhat, from their public feud that really boiled over yesterday with an online war of words. The two men have paused their attacks on social media for the moment, and White House aides were hoping to get the two of them onto the phone to patch things up, but President Trump is apparently not interested. This clash began when Musk blasted the spending bill President Trump is pushing, and then the back and forth led to Musk suggesting in a social media post that President Trump is named in the files related to the late financier Jeffrey Epstein, who was accused of sex trafficking. TMZ spoke with one of Epstein's attorneys about that claim from Musk.
The guy who represented Jeffrey Epstein at the time that he died in August of 2019, David Shane, says that he specifically asked Jeffrey Epstein whether or not Donald Trump was involved in Epstein's alleged misgivings, and he said no to that question. The attorney, again, David Shane, says he specifically asked that question.
Republican lawmakers, meantime, are urging President Trump and Musk to work out their differences as soon as possible. Many of them are worried this dispute will complicate efforts to pass that massive budget bill that is now in the hands of the U.S. Senate. Coming up tonight here on West Coast Wrap, a new lawsuit over deaths in Southern California's firestorm earlier this year. Tonight, who plaintiffs are going after in this case. Plus, a high school track star thinks stripping her of a state title goes too far. See how she's defending a controversial move that got her in trouble. Civil rights attorney Ben Crump has filed another lawsuit over the deadly Southern California wildfires earlier this year. The lawsuit contends 2 members of the Barr family died after the Eaton fire displaced them and compromised their around-the-clock medical care. The suit also alleges the fire caused a 3rd family member to suffer a cardiac emergency and other ongoing medical problems. Crump and other attorneys are filing lawsuits against Southern California Edison, blaming the utility company for failing to prevent those deadly wildfires. Well, the latest jobs report out today shows a stable labor market despite uncertainty over President Trump's tariffs and big market swings. The U.S. added 139,000 jobs in May. That was a drop from April, while unemployment stayed at 4.2% for the 3rd month in a row. All signs of a fairly stable labor market. There is some concern, though, as the Bureau revised its March and April data to show 95,000 fewer jobs added than previously reported. And as expected, federal jobs took big hits following those cuts that were implemented by the Department of Government Efficiency. Finally, tonight, a high school track athlete from California's Central Coast is speaking out after she was stripped of her gold medal because of a celebration after a recent race. 16-year-old Clara Adams is a sophomore at North Salinas High School. After winning the 400-meter event at the state championships, she used a small fire extinguisher on her cleats. The gesture was an homage to Olympic champion Maurice Green. Officials, though, ruled it unsportsmanlike. They disqualified her and stripped her state title. She says she deserved to celebrate.
Because my feet were on fire. I just ran 53 seconds in the 400 for the 2nd time in my whole life career. So that was a big moment for me.
And the way that was done was so callous, so disrespectful, so humiliating and embarrassing. You have a young lady who was doing nothing more than paying homage to another sports icon.
Her attorneys say they are going to give the California Interscholastic Federation the opportunity to reinstate her victory at that event. And they say if that doesn't happen, they are prepared to take legal action. Obviously, a story we will continue to follow. That does it for West Coast Wrap tonight. Before we head out, a quick reminder, you can stay up to date on all the big stories we're covering across the West at our website, westcoastwrap.com. Have a great night.